I think, we're both so fortunate to have his guidance. And also one of the other things about this PEMF stuff is that there's, much more growing interest, but there's not enough people doing it, not enough people using it, not because it's not effective, but because they just don't know about it. They're learning about it online or after they've tried all these other things. And the lovely thing is when they get around to doing the PEMF therapy, if it's done right with the right device, with the right treatment plan, it makes a huge difference for them.
Welcome to the PEMF Effect, where breakthrough science helps take control of your health. I'm Dr. William Pollack, and I'm here to guide you in tapping into the power of PEMF therapy for recovery, vitality, and total body wellness. From overcoming chronic pain, optimizing brain health, boosting energy, and aging with strength, this podcast is your path to cutting-edge solutions for lifelong well-being. If you're ready to move beyond symptom management and tap into your body's natural healing ability, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Today's episode was previously recorded on the Pain Solutions Summit that I hosted.
Hey, good morning. Good morning, Dr. Riz. So
Morning.
you and I are doing interview of each other, which I think is such a novel idea. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, we, of course, work together, Dr. Paula, to promote PEMF therapy and educate people. But in addition to that, I have my own wellness center where we specialize in acupuncture as well as PEMF therapy. And so, before ever learning about the PEMF world, I was, running my clinic and trying to help people with all the different problems that they come in with. And so, that was my starting point. And along that journey of being in healthcare and of helping people, I discovered this marvelous PEMF therapy. And ever since then, it's been history. I've been using it extensively and I've been teaching patients about it, using it with them. And it really has enabled me to do a lot more for people than I was able to do with acupuncture alone. So, I think like Dr. Pollack always says, we're problem solvers and we want to do what we can to solve the problem. And that's how I came into this PEMF world, was that it's one way to help with a lot of those problems.
That is awesome. So how did you meet Dr. Pollack?
Well, that happened sort of some interesting circumstances, a little bit of luck. When I started researching the PEMF therapy, I knew that I wanted to bring this into my clinic. But, it's not easy to just do overnight. You have to make sure you have the right equipment and stuff. So I did extensive research and Dr. Pollack's name came up time and time again. But he's the guy. He is the expert. He's the global dude. Everybody that talks about PEMF uses his work, and I just happened to find out that he is located in Maryland, which is where you and I are also located. And a light bulb went off in my head. I said, I have to connect with this guy because, he is, of course, hopefully he's going to be around for a very long time, but he's not really at the beginning of his career. And so I saw this great opportunity to be mentored, hopefully by somebody who's an expert, whose work I could take and carry on into the future. So I sought him out. I met with him several times, and then we ultimately became close and became a part of his team. And I'm also very curious about how you got to meet him.
Okay, so I knew nothing about PEMF. So my practice is chiropractic. I've been in practice almost 20 years now. And in addition to having my own practice, I also have two nonprofits that I founded. One is animal rescue and the other one is human services. So the human services ward, we do a lot of work with homeless people, also disadvantaged children and disadvantaged community. A mutual friend of mine said, she came in and she's like, she said, you're a gadget girl. So all the patients say I'm a gadget girl because, I'm always researching and trying to find the next thing because nothing is a one size fits all. Everybody's different. And even in your practice, I'm sure that one thing that would work for somebody with the same condition, all of a sudden doesn't work for somebody else. So when Carol came in, she's like a gadget girl and she goes, do you know anything about this PEMF? I'm like, no. And she's like, you need to meet my friend. And they've been friends for like 30 something years. And in fact, they've been friends since Dr. Pollack was in his early years of acupuncture. And so she's like, my friend Bill, you need to meet Bill. So that was like fall of 2019. And right at that time, I had started this program at University of Maryland School of Pharmacy, a master's degree program in science, research, and therapeutics of medical cannabis. So now that's a full-time thing. And then I met Dr. Pollack and I'm like, man, had I known about this PEMF thing, I said, that is kind of like so interesting. I would have completely done that. So now I have these two things going at the same time. And I met him and I was so intrigued, and he's like so knowledgeable. And even my research online, everything was staring back to him. And I said, what an opportunity, just like you, to be able to be mentored by the best of the best. So that's kind of how I met him. But I think you had said you had met him earlier. You met him like the year before I did. So
Yeah, because like I was introduced to PEMF therapy very randomly, and so there was I was at a health fair when I was approached by a nurse who was a salesperson for one of the PEMF manufacturers, and I always listen to nurses, and so I said. She offered if I'd like to try out a sample treatment. And I said, sure, you come to my clinic. And she did. And nothing really happened in that first treatment there, but I was given some literature. And the key word that stood out to me was circulation. Because in the world of acupuncture, we often talk about energy and chi and some of these things that are mysterious and mystical. And, sometimes people even kind of wonder, does this stuff really work because of that? But it's actually all about circulation, and it's all about the flow of gases in the body, like nitric oxide and oxygen. So I saw that word circulation. I said, oh, if there's something that can support that, I want to know about it. And so then this was like that 2017, 2018 period. And so when I learned that Dr. Pollack was not too far away over, down the road, I made it a point to go stop by over there. So that was about 2018, and we kind of had like a more of an informal relationship at that time. So yeah, now it's going back 4 years, and I think we're both so fortunate to have his guidance. And also one of the other things about this PEMF stuff is that there's much more growing interest, but there's not enough people doing it, not enough people using it, not because it's not effective, but because they just don't know about it. They're learning about it online or after they've tried all these other things. And the lovely thing is when they get around to doing the PEMF therapy, if it's done right with the right device, with the right treatment plan, it makes a huge difference for them.
absolutely.
But there's just not enough folks doing it. So that's a big role for us as people that educate and share to really spread this message to the world, because we've seen firsthand how much this can do for people, and in your case, in animals as well.
Right. And the stuff that people learn online, even the articles that they're reading, it's not the same thing as on drpollack.com. His is like such deep research that goes into it. And when we do the consults, we're seeing doctors that are actually doing the consults, because, we don't have a device that is a one size fits all. It really is conditional and it's based on the person. So these calls are so important. And even just talking to the people at Dr. Pollack's office is absolutely important, because like you said, if they don't use this properly, then they don't get the results. And then they're like, this thing doesn't work. So it's great that you and I are so fortunate to be able to be trained and to really know this stuff inside out. And even with the years that we've been training with Dr. Pollack, there's so much more that we don't know. So it's really important that people come to his website and actually have the consults.
Yeah, the information there is the unbiased information. It delves into the science. It leverages all the studies that have been done. I mean, Dr. Pollack amazes me with his ability to review the research and stay current with it, and just the volume that comes through. But he finds a way to read it all.
it's tough what he does, because when I was doing my master's degree, a part of it, we had to do extensive research. So we actually had to write a research paper. So we had to go and find the information on PubMed and all these different sites and cite it properly. And they showed us how to find good information versus the biased ones, and to kind of wean all of this stuff out. And he is incredible the way he can go and decipher from all of these articles and come up with the ones that is completely legit, and to put them all together into the format that he does. Half the times I said, you know what, like some of the semesters I had, I would just send him a screenshot and say, you know what, I completely hate you because somewhere in the universe, you have kind of this osmosis, and all of a sudden I am stuck having to do this kind of research. So I know how difficult it must be. And then to still be the educator. So in addition to just to being the person who writes these great articles, he's also the educator, because all of the people, when I was in my training with him and sitting on the calls, there were people from all over the world that would call with such complex cases. And I would just sit there, just be dumbfounded. And the way that he was able to just kind of break each piece down and take this whole case history. You and I do it in our practice, but when you're on a phone call and you have like a half an hour to kind of come up with the primary diagnosis, the whole triage, and then to say, okay, this device is what you need. And I was there like researching after the fact, writing stuff down, and then researching to try to figure out how he even came up with this. And after a while, it became so simple. PEMF, that's it. That's the key. PEMF is what you need. It has multifaceted. I mean, you do have the contraindications, but it always comes back to that and to circulation and inflammation.
Are you tired of living with chronic pain? Medication only masks the symptoms, but real healing starts at the cellular level. I'm Dr. William Pollack, the leading expert on PEMF therapy. Pulsed Electromagnetic Field therapy is a science-backed, drug-free solution that helps reduce pain, speed up recovery, and improve overall health, right from the comfort of your home. Take advantage of an exclusive 10% discount on drpollack.com PEMF systems. Visit drpollack.com, that's drpawluk.com, to register and claim your savings. This limited time offer is available only to registered listeners. Don't miss your chance to experience the benefits. Terms and conditions do apply. Don't just manage pain, transform your health. Visit drpollack.com today, and let's get started on your healing journey together.
Yeah. And, it's not just this whole, expertise and knowing about all this stuff. He really has the heart there that he just wants to help people. And that's what kind of, I think, draws everybody in. And, we just happen to know about this wonderful tool that can do so much for people. It's super exciting, but it's all heart centered. It's
Right.
from a place where we just want to make the world a better place. And what a great role model. So, yeah. So, we have things to help circulation and reducing inflammation, even helping your bones to be functioning better and stronger than they could be otherwise. So I'm curious about, like in your clinic, what are some of the devices that you like to use, or like, what do you lean on most for people when they come in with different challenges? And
So I have a full body system in my office, and I also have a full body system at the house. And I bundle it in with the chiropractic, because sometimes I feel that a person is so inflamed and they're so guarded that there is no way they would relax enough for me to even do any alignment. So in addition to electric stim and dry needling and traction and heat and ice, there's all this stuff. And still, I have come over the years, realized that still is not enough. The people that come now, and I know, why don't we just skip the heat, and why don't we skip the ice, and why don't we skip this? Just put them on for 15 minutes on this PEMF device, and their body is just loose enough that I'm able to do what I want to do. I have people who come in and they've had surgeries on their back. So now I'm limited in what I can do, because now you can't do an alignment if these people has got like a rod in the back or all these bones are fused. So generally those people, all I have the access to what I do is dry needling. But now I'm able to do PEMF, and really with just the PEMF alone, I have seen huge difference. And I wasn't able to do a lot for a person's knee. Sometimes they have shoulder problems. I wasn't really able to do a lot. I was able to do the dry needling and probably some ice and the heat. But now I put them on for half an hour with an applicator on their shoulder or on the knee. So these extremities now, I have a lot of people who just come in and they're like, I heard you have this machine that zaps you and, it does this and does that. So I have now people sending their friends, and I have a huge population that I have, or actually, retired people, senior citizens. And they just, the one who sought chiropractic, they have already decided that they're sorting holistic health. So when they come in, it's easier now for me to talk to them because their mind is already open, that they want something that is not just conventional, traditional medicine. They're sorting for something different. So in the practice, it's been a great integration. What about your situation?
Yeah, same here. So, you bring up the needling, and that's, as an acupuncturist, that's like the main thing that you do is needles.
Right.
And dry needling is like a technique of acupuncture, but more specific for muscles and trigger points.
Yeah.
And so we do that too. And definitely it's helpful in many cases, but it's sort of a different application, right? A needle is going to be very specific and go to a precise place and, do a very particular action in a muscle or close to a nerve. But when you bring in the PEMF therapy, now you've broadened the entire area that you can work on. You're supporting all the tissues. And I tell patients, that everybody comes in looking for acupuncture because that's what is in the name of our clinic and that's what people know about.
Right.
But they always, almost entirely on the first visit, they'll be educated about PEMF or they'll learn about it, because it's wrong of me to not tell them about it.
Right.
Because what happens is when we're doing the acupuncture, you're working in a certain context, right? We're attempting to remove energetic blockages or create some harmony or smoothness in the way things flow in the acupuncture channels. But we are not just acupuncture channels. We are all these different tissues, and we're made up of all these different structures that work together. And all of those tissues are made up of cells. And the PEMF therapy was working at that cellular level. So I often tell people, I said, if we're just kind of sticking with the acupuncture, we're working on one level, but it's more superficial. We are working on sort of that energetic blockages, or in the case of dry needling, we're doing muscular trigger points, powerful stuff, but it's not working at that cellular level. And you still need a needle, and not everybody loves that. And some people do. Some people they asked for it. They say, hey, I like when you do that needle there, but it's not the majority of folks. And, it's a little more elegant to be able to have something that's working deeper in the body without having to poke and prod. And, this is coming from the acupuncturist who uses needles all day long. But increasingly, I'm not needing to use it as much because we're able to, enhance the treatment by bringing in that cellular aspect. So it's very exciting, and there's not a ton of acupuncturists doing this right now. So it's a way to offer more than other practitioners. And, we don't exactly bundle it in the way that you do. What we do is the first 2 times that somebody does the PEMF therapy, we don't charge for it because we want them to experience, we want them to see what it's like, feel what it's like, give them time to read up on it. And then after those 2 visits, if they want to continue with the PEMF therapy along with the acupuncture, then we have a small fee that we charge for that. So it makes it accessible, but it gives people the choice of, do they want to do one? Do they want to do both? With the opportunity to try the PEMF at no risk. And a lot of people will continue working with it because they understand that it's doing that deeper, broader work. And it's more than just stimulating the acupuncture system.
Right.
So, and especially in today's world with, the pandemic and the fear and the stress, there's physiological effects to that. And, I can use a needle to shift the nervous system, but I can use the PEMF therapy to literally shake off the stress from the cells and get somebody really nice and relaxed. And we see it happen all the time.
Right. And then even the low level PEMF, if you turn the device down really low, it stimulates all of the acupuncture points.
Right.
So then people feel like they have this really amazing acupuncture treatment, but it's actually doing more than just stimulating the meridians. They're actually now getting all of this cells getting excited and ATP production, and then people just feel absolutely incredible. And in the animal world, so through my animal rescue, I had dogs and cats at the house. And occasionally when we do a rescue, like last year around this time, I had this kitten that somebody actually brought in a paper towel. We had so much snow, and I think we had like 2 feet of snow. And this guy said that he was putting out his trash, and he was hearing this thing, and he looked, and he saw this kitten, and the umbilical cord was still attached. So it had to be probably 2 or 3 days old. I brought this to my office in this paper towel. And this thing was barely alive. And most people would tell you that a kitten with an umbilical cord, and you don't have an incubator, and you don't have all this stuff, that the chances of survival is really slim to none. And I said, okay, this cat's not going to die on my watch. And I took this cat home, got the formula. It was feeding the cat with a syringe. Mm-hmm. And the Flex Pulse, but the Flex Pulse in the box, when I was keeping the cat in, there were several times that this cat really literally stopped breathing. So I know PET CPR, so I did PET CPR, but I have a high intensity full body system at the house. And I would take this cat and I would just get on this system and just put this cat underneath the pad with me on my stomach and just put it on. I said, you know what? I said, I know the benefits of PEMF. I know what it does. And I said, you know what? Let's try this. Well, the cat survived. And I documented daily on the differences with this cat. This cat climbed out of the box by 3 weeks. It wasn't, the eyes weren't even open yet. This cat climbed out of the box. This cat was walking like in more advanced, was using the litter box more advanced than other kittens. And I've done animal rescue and I bottle fed other kittens, not one that was this really critical. The cat is a year old now. The cat is huge in terms of growth because I think the PEMF stimulated the growth hormones.
Right.
And the cat is so brave. The cat, in fact, the cat's name is Molly the dog. So we go to visit the cat pretty often. This cat would take socks out of the laundry hamper. This cat would eat an entire sub sandwich, but refuse to eat its cat food. The cat is a riot. And they would throw stuff at a cat like a dog, and the cat runs and brings the stuff back. So in the animal world, it's safe. It's safe. I have 2 dogs at the house, and when I do my treatment, they come in and they sit right next to where I'm getting the treatment. So they end up getting their treatment. And when I do dry needling on my dog when her hip is really bad, well, now I actually just come and I just take the applicator and I put it, I first the jolt, because it almost feels like static shock on pending. They get used to it. So even for animals, this is safe. This is safe.
Your body was designed to heal, but illness, chronic disease, stress, injury, and time can slow that process down. What if you could restore your body's natural ability to recover, recharge, and feel its best? The key to healing is giving your body the energy to repair itself. PEMF therapy does exactly that. Recharging your cells, improving circulation, reducing inflammation, and helping you function at your best. For decades, I've studied this technology, worked with hundreds of medical professionals, and help thousands of people reduce pain, regain energy, and take control of their health. However, not all PEMF devices are created equal. No one size fits all. We offer personalized consultations so you can find the right device for your needs, backed by real science and trusted results. If you're ready for a real solution, let's talk. Schedule a consultation at drpawluk.com. That's drpawluk.com, because real healing starts at the cellular level.
Yeah, so I don't have a ton of experience with that, but I have a handful of cases where people have come in. We used to have an animal acupuncturist at our clinic, but in Maryland, you have to have a special certification to do that.
Right.
So I don't have that, but we used to have somebody in the clinic that did, and she would see animals regularly for acupuncture. But after she retired, once in a while I'd get calls from people with pets and, hey, I used to come there. Can you help? And so I've had, a handful of situations where I told them, listen, I can't do acupuncture, but I've got PEMF equipment and we know it's safe. You can bring your animal in and we can do treatments on them and see. So in one case, it was actually a sad story where there was a dog that was at the end of his life. He was in the final stages, but he was able to benefit from a few PEMF treatments that helped him relax and regain a little bit of function towards the end. There's other instances where there was a very old dog that was limping badly and we did some treatment on the hip and low back and he was walking better by the end of that session. And I also actually have heard from a lot of patients who, they've experienced PEMF therapy with us. And of course we tell them, you don't have to just be limited to coming here. You can get your own system and you should. But you have to learn about it, of course. And once they do, oftentimes people will get it and they've come back and told me that, every time I get on it, my pet is there with me and wants to just come right on the pad, doesn't want to leave. So anecdotally, I've heard a lot of interesting stories. And we know from Dr. Pawluk's research that not only does the PEMFs benefit humans and animals, but also plants. This is a huge thing for people to know, because if they have a home system, which again, they should, it's something everybody should have. They just don't know it, but even their pet is going to be able to get use out of it, not just their family members. So it just brings tremendous value. You have something there that can help every member of the family, including the animals. We can't say that for medications or for many other treatments.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Even in my office, my back treatment room, I have plants in there and people come in and they're like, this plant has vined all the way through two treatment rooms. And I tell them the same thing. I say, it's the PEMF. I said, so you need to get one. I said, even if you don't get it for yourself, get it for your plants.
Right.
Jokingly, of course, but everybody does need to have one. It's nice to go to the acupuncturist or the chiropractor's office and to try it 3 times a week. But that doesn't give you the value. That doesn't do what your body needs. It needs it every day. We have oxidation of cells happening every day, every hour, every minute, every second. So to be able to kind of overcome that, to get these cells to be viable again, you really need to be doing this treatment twice a day. I do half an hour in the morning, half an hour in the evening. And my friend Debbie decided that we should sign up for this boot camp at this gym, this 6 weeks challenge. Well, my body is really challenging. So now I'm actually doing full body treatment, half an hour in the morning, but an hour in the evening, because I have more inflammation going on. So this has helped me to be able to tell the patients that those days when you actually feel that you're actually having a more difficult time, now the weather has gotten better, a lot better, and people are gardening. And I'm like, the days that you're going to be out there gardening, then just increase your time. Increase the time. It's not going to hurt you. Increase the time because you have more inflammation. So now your body actually needs it to be able to do the recovery. So
Right. And, it's safe. Like, we know that it's very hard to do too much PEMF therapy because it doesn't stay in your body. It goes right through you.
Right.
A needle is going into your body, a medication is going into your body, and it remains there for a period of time. but a magnetic field, low frequency, high intensity, or low intensity magnetic field will just travel right through the body like it's not even there. But this is what kind of makes it so cool, is that we're working at that invisible level where, you can see an acupuncture needle going into a point, you can see the spine and the adjustments that you can do to it, but the cells are invisible. So it's working on those quantum energy fields.
Right, absolutely. It goes in, and like you said, the way I kind of think about it, I think about it like, I think you're probably too young, Pac-Man, how the Pac-Man.
I remember Pac-Man, yeah.
But just go in and just eat up stuff. So the PMF is going in and it's finding all of these cells that are damaged, and it's like touching it and just giving it some energy and making it whole again. So in my head, when I'm doing my treatment, I'm like, okay, well, we did abs today, so I'm sure that there's all this inflammation, that the muscle itself needs some healing. And I'm thinking this PMF is going in there and it's going to target that area. And that is true, because one day my hip was just so bad. My hip just felt so inflamed. And I was doing this full body treatment all day long for 2 years. But that one day, guess what? Same intensity. That's the area. All of a sudden, that area is the only thing that was hurting. That's the only thing. I just kind of felt like all of this intensity, all of the PMF current is going right there to that one spot on that right hip, because that's where the most inflammation was. It needed it.
So I've had something along those lines happen. This was in the beginning when I was using the full body PEMF. I usually would not feel any sensation in the lower part of my body. Everything was kind of like from the waist up. That's what I got used to. And then after doing this for several months, I started to feel some sensation in my thigh. And it stood out to me because this had never happened before. So I'm wondering, I'm like, why all of a sudden am I feeling it there? And then it happened a few more times in the coming days, and I realized exactly what was happening. I keep something in my right pocket pretty much all day, and a lot of people do, which is my cell phone. And we know that thing is not helping our body when it's close to our body. Women that keep their cell phones in their bra have a higher incidence of breast cancer. And similarly, putting this phone on my thigh is not helping my leg. Well, just that exact spot where the phone sits would start to light up and it would feel a little ripply. And so it was very interesting. And when I realized what was happening, I was like, oh, this is just going to that inflammation that's in my leg from just having the phone next to it all the time, all day. So you're right. It hones in on those problem areas that we don't even think about or know about.
And interesting, you talk about cell phone. So I had a patient who started working from home, but was doing just a lot of phone calls. And the person would come in and the left occiput was always out. That left side, and this was a pattern that was not there. This is somebody I've been seeing for years. I'm like, what is different? This person was using the cell phone on the left side like this. So I said, when you use your cell phone, I said, so are you always putting it like this? No, because I'm thinking, okay, maybe it has something to do with the neck. It wasn't that. They were just holding it there, and the phone would get hot, and then so it's pulling the occiput out. So I started to use PMF. I said, my alignment is not going to hold. I said, you have all this inflammation that's built up in there from this cell phone use and the radiation from the cell phone. I said, you need PMF. So that person comes in and they know that immediately they have to do PMF treatment first before. And I was seeing them 3 times a week for 2 weeks before, not holding the alignment. Now I'm seeing them once a month holding the alignment. But if the cell phone use is excessive, they call me and they say, you know what, I need to come in and I need to do a treatment. And I say, no, you need to get your own system. You need to get your own system at your house. I said, do a GoFundMe. Go do a GoFundMe. I said, and get this and just get one for your house.
Yeah, I've had patients who have done that, and after they've been able to benefit from it. I think in closing, one of the interesting things that stands out to me as you spoke, that it just reminded me that one of the things that's so great about this is it's not just working on the problems that we want to focus it on, but it's actually creating a better internal terrain. It's making a better internal environment in the body so that everything can flourish. So I've had many times where, for instance, I'm trying to help somebody with a hip problem or a low back problem. And just because of where we do the PEMF therapy, they start to urinate less at night. And, they're not waking up as much because the areas that are responsible for that are in proximity to the hip and the low back, and other things just get better. And that's just one small example. The entire terrain of the body will benefit from this kind of stimulation. So then it sets the stage for healing and for other things to improve. A lot of times we're just sort of targeting and focused on certain areas. So that's really what attracts me towards using this, is I know that I'm actually just about always doing more for the patient than what they came in for.
It's about cellular health. It's about keeping the cells young and keeping the cells healthy. So I tell the patients, I say, we have found the fountain of youth. I said, we have found it because if you go in and you can fix a cell that is damaged and you keep it fresh and young and vibrant, it makes sense. And even for myself. So I use the loop over my head for 12 minutes. And of course, so I noticed that my neck, I used to have that, I don't know what, chicken neck or whatever they called it, but my neck has that skin is different. I look at pictures from 2 years ago and to now, and I'm 55 years old, and this looks better than it did when I was 53, when I was 52, and I would attribute this to PMS. So women love it because I think this is the fountain of youth.
Yeah, totally makes sense. That's what it did. That's what we would expect.
Yes. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Riz. This was amazing. Perfect. So we will chat later, and it was so great to have this.
Yes. Yeah, I appreciate your time too, and looking forward to keep up doing the great work with folks.
Great work, team Dr. Pollock.
Thanks for joining me on the PEMF Effect. I hope today's conversation gave you new tools, insights, and inspiration to take control of your health. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could benefit from PEMF therapy and holistic healing. Your body has the power to repair, recover, and thrive. Sometimes it just needs the right charge. Until next time, stay curious, stay proactive, and keep powering up to better health.